He joins me now from Beijing via Skype. He's the founder and managing director of Sino Auto Insights. Welcome to the show.
Gerald, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Now, this is so far the only international auto show this year, and you were there when it opened. Tell us some of the highlights.
So, I think the biggest highlight is that it was fairly normal. You know, I brought my children. There wasn't a lot of social distancing. There were masks, but there wasn't a ton of enforcement on that. So I think that's the biggest thing. The other takeaway that I got was, you know, this was almost like a coming out party for a lot of the Chinese EV makers. I think the foreign automakers were a bit muted in some of their announcements and some of their launches, but I think this was a chance for, you know, the Xiaopangs, WMs, and the Neos to kind of come out and show the world. And given the spotlight, because there's only one auto show, this was really the entire world kind of paid attention, right? So.
Right. Now, demand for new energy vehicles continues to grow around the world, from electric to hybrids and hydrogen fuel cell cars. How do you see China rising to this burgeoning market?
So I think there's a statistic that McKinsey said by 2025, China should be selling around 3.8 or 4 million, around 4 million units in China. So that's a huge jump from the 1.2 million I think we sold last year. So in order to do that, and this is what's happening with the large OEMs, is that they're going to bring more products to market. And, you know, earlier in the segment, we had talked about moving from government-led growth to more consumer-driven growth. And I think what you're going to see is when more products enter the market and people have more choices, they're going to really notch up the education and the information and awareness. And that's going to really create more interest as the OEMs the large OEMs, traditional OEMs, the Germans, the Americans, the Japanese, and the Koreans, they start to really wind down the internal combustion engine. I think they're going to really start to push the electric vehicles, the NEVs, which include the hybrids.
Right. I mean, we saw so many different kinds of cars coming out, you know, like, so there is the supply, but what's the demand like? How would you rate the strength of China's auto market right now?
Well, so I would rank the strength of China's market as the market didn't plateau as much as the other global markets. So the other two markets are the EU and the United States, essentially. So the EU's managed the COVID fairly well, and they're starting to see a little bit of a recovery. I think last month we saw more EVs being sold in the EU than in China for the first time. But I think China's kind of taken back the lead. The United States is still a big mess. And with the Chinese EV makers, you know, they don't have the history and the legacy of having to unwind old businesses, which gives them quite an advantage.
Right.
And with the additional funding that they've received, like Xiaopang and Li Auto, they went public in the U.S. markets. They went IPO. So they have a lot of cash now to really invest in manufacturing, invest in capacity, invest in R&D. And now that they're worth $12–14 billion, that international expansion and growth is priced into their share price. So there's going to be a lot of expectations from those car makers or from those EV startups to really start to get that hockey stick growth.
Right.
And I think that's the biggest challenge for them, because they're still hovering around, you know, 2–3,000 units a month of sales for China. So when you add in the pressure of international growth, the business is really complex for them. So,
Truly very interesting to get your insight. Thank you for joining us this evening.
thank you, Gerald. Have a good one.
Thank you.